into our round 4. Math.
Yeah, round 4 moving right along here. 9 total rounds of Swiss is what we will feature today before cutting to the top 16 players. Those players will battle out in the top 16 tomorrow morning. We started this field with 296 players, all looking for their share of the $25,000. It's going to be Dizzy, again, one of our bounty players, versus Andrew Duval on the right, one of the great players from the Pro-Play Games team. He has had some great results in this game as well. It's going to be Draven versus Ezreal as Andrew starts things off in game 1. We've got the early stack deck.
Yeah, really nice early stack deck. Also, that Reaver's Row and Void Gate. Reaver's Row, I think, pairs it so well with the Draven list, and especially that Draven leader ability. So, in general, Draven's ability is when you win a combat, you get to draw a card, which, as we've talked about, is so strong in card games. But Reaver's Row pairs well with it because even if you go in and you start that combat because Reaver's Row, and with Reaver's Row, you as the defender retreat back, it is still a win for the attacker, which will allow Draven to draw a card. So really, really nice one for the leader. And Void Gate can pair well with some of these different damage spells that Ezreal has been playing lately.
That is absolutely right. Look at this second turn for Andrew with the stacked deck, a second copy of stacked deck, going into 2 copies of Seal of Discord, getting the Ezreal chosen champion out to discard that rebuke, drawing some extra cards. So now we've got the Seal plus Ezreal package online. You start getting these great cost reductions on the optional additional costs, and this is exactly what Andrew wants early.
Yeah, Andrew is definitely having the exact line that he wants. I think the only thing missing from it may have been like a scrap heap to discard, but a seal into Ezreal is exactly what this deck wants to see to get off really early with these really low costs, which I'm sure is going to help Andrew hopefully turn this game towards his favor versus Dizzy's.
Now, Dizzy was able to open up with a turn 1 play of his own, starting out with the Treasure Hunter, the little one might unit that could, but starts generating that gold gear token advantage when you move. So just trying to decide what battlefield to go into. And it looks like Dizzy is going to push over into Void Gate. Will create that gold gear token exhausted, and now we'll see if he continues to develop. A lot of players go for that chosen champion as soon as you can, the Draven Vanquisher, and that's exactly what we see out of Dizzy on his second turn of the game.
Yeah, that's gonna be really nice, and it leaves Reaver's Row open for Dizzy later in the game, uh, by taking the Void Gate with Treasure Hunter. It could be a little bit dangerous moving up like this if we were against another red deck, but because it's Ezreal, it's not as disastrous if he decides to play some type of damage spell here. Still, though, I mean, Treasure Hunter's only a 2, so we could see something that could help Ezreal take care of this problem.
So Andrew has opted to just develop here that Vex Cheerless champion unit, real mainstay in these Ezreal builds now as we get the second point for Dizzy, holding on to the Void Gate with that Treasure Hunter. And now the Treasure Hunter quickly moving back to base. We get a second gold gear. So starting to save up some money on Dizzy's side, and we've got the Vanquisher ready to go, and we have plenty of runes to work with.
Yeah, I think both sides are getting a good amount of resources, and Andrew is just finding every single piece to his puzzle here. He's got the Vex ready, he's got Ezreal and 2 seals. I mean, obviously, he's going to need to get more cards in the discard pile to uh, cheap discount the cost for Rasa, but I think he's kind of getting set up and in the exact spot he wants to be for this matchup.
Accelerated Kaisa now for Dizzy, using the ready gold gear token to reduce the power cost. They
Ooh.
are paying for one of the power, and now it's the falling star going to come in and take out the Vex, dealing 3 damage to it on 2 separate instances. And that big threat for Andrew is off the board as Dizzy goes up to 3 points, drawing that extra card off of the Kaisa's ability.
Yeah, that's gonna be so nice. I mean, we're gonna go in and get some more cards in our hand, and getting Vex off the table is so important early because of Vex's ability, which allows in showdowns for your spells to cost 1 less and your opponents to cost 1 more. it is going to be really important for Dizzy to keep it off the board instead of letting it uh, get use in one of these future fights.
Absolutely. We know that Blevins was actually discussing a little bit about the great synergies between Ezreal and Vex and
Oh yeah.
how it can reduce and essentially make later in the game, if you get a couple copies of Ezreal down, a Bellows Breath can be free. You essentially have the free called shot when you pair those up as well. So it's just so good, the synergy between those two units. As
hmm
Andrew is able to dig a little bit, we've got the early called shot and the stack deck on this turn. So trying to reassemble some of those pieces after Vex was taken out.
Let's see what Andrew can do to refill his board up, though, because obviously he's going to play a little bit more on his bench till he has everything he needs. We don't really call it miracle when it's Ezreal because it's just Ezreal to some extent. But he's not afraid to take a little bit longer in this game to get set up. So even though Draven is getting these early points, Ezreal doesn't have the biggest trouble coming back from behind as long as he can get his board developed.
That is an outstanding point for sure. This deck, this Ezreal deck, really known as a control deck, kind of like a toolbox control deck. A lot of these modern versions, they've got a lot of one-ofs in the deck. We've been seeing Alonzi Q running this deck to perfection, winning in Bologna, and then making the top cut in Vegas, and really quite the toolbox this deck brings as Ezreal moves into the Reaver's Row. Kai'Sa's going to bounce back off of Reaver's Row ability. Andrew will score his first point of the game. It's 3-1. And now we're going to see the Frigid Touch giving -2 might to both Kai'Sa and
Ooh.
Draven at base as the repeat is played. And now it's going to be the Bellows Breath with the repeat is going to deal 2 damage in total to both of those units. And the backline for Dizzy taken care of.
That is so dangerous. Riftbound is such a tempo-based game. So having this huge swing where Dizzy has committed so many runes, so much power each turn to get his board set up, Andrew takes it out in a single turn, putting him super far behind. And Dizzy, what he thought was going to end up protecting Kaisa by retreating on that Reaver's Row, ends up walking into, I mean, a terrible play for Dizzy, right? Because he put everything in a single field where Andrew was able to really capitalize on that Bellows breath.
That is absolutely right, because that Bellows Breath only hits a specific location. It's you deal 1 to up to 3 units at the same location. And yeah, that Kaisa being back in the base really worked out to perfection for Andrew here on his previous turn. And we've got a treasure hunter coming out for Dizzy, and that is going to be the only play of the turn as we pass back over to Andrew. He will hold at Reaver's Row, going up to 2. 3-2 now, still in favor of Dizzy, but Andrew really feels like the momentum has swinged into his side, right?
For sure. I completely agree. I mean, it seemed a little bit dangerous at first that Ezreal moving up into a battlefield when we weren't really sure what else he had in hand. But with that tempo swing taking out the entire base, Dizzy's had to give up a turn to only create a 2 might unit. He does have, it looks like 5 to 6 runes left untapped, but I mean, I'm not sure exactly how Disney's going to plan to come back from this. Obviously, he has some more turns to do it. He has that 3 point lead, but Andrew's definitely taking control of the board. A Vex has come down now as well as a card sharp, and Dizzy needs to get that Vex back off if he wants to come back.
Yeah, once again, Andrew has the Ezreal Vex combination lined up in the back line. The card sharp generating the gold gear token for Andrew. Dizzy passed on that creation himself. As we get back over to Dizzy, he does conquer Reaver's Row yet again with the treasure hunter. So still getting that second gold gear token and up to 4 points.
Yeah, I mean, 4 points is nice, putting us back on the even points. I heard y'all mention this, I think, on the earlier games about how important it is right now for everyone to stay on even points because you're trying to get 2 points per turn versus when you go on odds, suddenly you're going to have a bit of problem finishing that conquering or finishing the game off. It's nice to get this gold, but again, Dizzy doesn't have another unit that he put down, which can be a bit of a problem.
Yeah, that's right. Dizzy just moving into the Reaver's Row with Treasure Hunter there, not using any of those runes on his previous turn. Back over to Andrew. Again, we've got the back line set up. We've got Vex ready to potentially get some big value in combat. Now we're going to see the Trickster Fizz is going to be played, and we are going to replay the call shot from the trash. And now Andrew will start digging yet again.
Yeah, Call Shot is so strong with Ezreal in the field. I mean, you do have to pay, say, 1 power, but in these decks that run Seal and Ezreal is discounting that repeat cost, you're getting to look at 4 cost cards for the cost of an exhausted rune, Seal sometimes, or 1 rune power, and you get to draw 2, which is just so nice for the resources that you spent on it.
When you talk about value, Ursi, that really is the definition of value. The card sharp going to move into Void Gate, scoring another point for Andrew, getting up to 3 as now the Vex cheerless champion unit moving into Reaver's Row. And now this is where the decision is for Dizzy. We've got plenty of cards in hand. We've got the runes. Can we respond to Vex?
Yeah, I have to assume that Dizzy has a lot of spells in his hand. He was not able to put a unit down during his last turn, despite what looks like a good hand of cards. So he must have something. The problem is here is that Vex is now making each of those cards one energy more to pay for. So he won't be able to play as many, but he does potentially have plays that he could still use. And because he didn't have any cards to put down, he does have a lot of runes that are untapped here.
Vex in combat really is so threatening to your opponent because, as you mentioned, yeah, it will cost an additional energy and power for Dizzy to play these spells with Vex in combat. Of course, you had the option of just bringing the treasure hunter back to base off the Reaver's Row, but I do believe we could be past that step, or maybe he's still contemplating that. But it looks like we are past that step. Treasure hunter is going to stay at the battlefield, and it's going to be fight or flight, and that is the spell play to push Vex back. And the wages of pain for Andrew, looking to dismantle the treasure hunter here. And Dizzy says, wait just a second. We caught a glimpse of the spinning axe. That's the contemplation at this spot.
Yeah, spinning axe would be so nice if we can get it off successfully and keep the unit alive. Spinning axe is really interesting as an equipment because when it is not attached to a unit at the end of a turn, it does end up kind of dissolving and going to your trash. So if the treasure hunter ends up dying after you pay to put this
Oh, and it
the spinning
does.
axe, it's
Oh,
terrible. But and that's exactly what's going to happen from Andrew with that access to blue cards that can decrease might. Ouch.
yeah, that is an ouch for sure. Stupefy giving it that -1 might after it had already been dealt 3 damage, and that is enough to take care of it. Losing the spinning axe is Dizzy as we see the temporal portal coming out as well for Andrew. Very interesting gear here that could give future spells repeat. So I really like this play from Andrew.
Let's see what Dizzy has. He is going to use the stack cards to try to find something, but he still didn't. He needs more units. He's out of units, and he doesn't seem to have any in his hand thus far. So hopefully, he is going to find an option to play. Otherwise, we're really going to get set back in tempo. Looks like Darius potentially.
Yeah, looks like the Trifarian is coming out here. And it was the second card played. We already saw the stack deck, so the second card you play in a turn. Darius is able to ready and gets +2 might for the turn. So that's a 7 might unit for Dizzy in the back line. Still have 4 runes to work with as we see the Darius champion unit moving into Void Gate. Will take out the card sharp. Dizzy up to his 5th point. Andrew still has a Vex in the back line.
Yeah, Andrew was able to protect Vex, but he has so many cards set up right now between that Fizz, that Vex that are both able to threaten Darius in the long term. Ezreal's waiting in Reaver's row. He definitely has a bit more developed board than Dizzy does. We're just quickly checking that Wages of Pain. But hopefully we'll see Dizzy be able to, get more units on the board and come back from those. I mean, it seems like 2 now tempo swings in Andrew's favor.
Is he still having some choices to make here on his turn? Andrew is completely exhausted here in terms of runes. We are going to play the Tide Hunter, and we're going to switch the locations off of that ability from the Tide Hunter. The Tide Hunter and Darius Treferian trading spots. The Tide Hunter will be the one holding at the Void Gate, and we bring the more threatening unit back to base to hopefully do some more conquering in the future.
Yeah, I think that's really nice because Darius is I mean, he's a big unit, and you don't wanna really leave him sitting at Void Gate where he is extra vulnerable because of the battlefield's text, which is I mean, those same damage spells give 1 extra damage to any of those units sitting there. So getting Darius out of it so that we can protect him in the base is gonna be really nice for Dizzy.
Seeing once again that one power called shot that you talked about earlier, being able to essentially look at the top four, getting a couple extra cards as Ezreal Prodigy scoring that fifth point for Andrew. It's 5-5 here in game one of round four of Swiss here in Pittsburgh. Stupefy is the play for Andrew, targeting was it the Ezreal that he pointed at there? Or was it the Triferian?
I think it was the Darius, yeah, the
Okay,
Trifarian
okay.
in the back, and so you have to wonder, it kinda gives you an idea, right, that he may have some of those damage spells we talked about earlier waiting in his hand. We do see that Vex come up versus Tide Turner, so again, we gotta, keep an eye out for some of those spells while Darius is sitting there at a 4, and Bellow's Breath is gonna come down, starting to target that Darius we talked about earlier, who you would think is a 5, but it's actually a 4 right now.
Oh, and the frigid touch on top of it. This is going to be big for Andrew. That is going to take the might away from Darius. Darius is wiped out. Vex at the Void Gate taking down the Tide Turner. It is 6-5 for Andrew, and Dizzy's board has been completely neutralized.
That is I mean, just another swing for Andrew. I mean, I think Andrew's been in the lead a little bit here since some of those early tempo swings, but Dizzy cannot get a foothold in the base, in the battlefield anywhere right now, it feels like.
Indeed, it has been tough game one for Dizzy. We've got Rasa coming down into the Void Gate, the first Rasa of this match, and another copy of Vex. This Void Gate will be extremely difficult for Dizzy to take Andrew off of.
Yeah, we have so many units right there for Andrew. He was ready to hold it all the way to victory, but it looks like Dizzy is going to go on and scoop up here. We'll be going.
So we will play to 9 points here in game two, Ursi.
Yeah, I think that just like showcases, right, how much Ezreal is okay with going for a long game using that Aspirant's Climb. Aspirant's Climb does mean this game, as you said, going to 9 points. It's going to take even longer for Dizzy to be able to win, even if he rushes from the start here. But with Targon's Peak, maybe he has a chance. By conquering Targon's Peak, players will be able to get 2 of their exhausted runes readied, which is perfect for Draven because 2 is the magic number, but versus Vex, the math changes a bit.
Yes, it does. It really does. Tide Turner was the opening play for Dizzy. On to Card Sharp for Andrew on his first turn, getting that gold gear token. Once again, Dizzy has the option to create one as well, but that would give Andrew a second gold gear token, and Dizzy says no thanks. The Tide Turner will move into Targon's Peak, scoring the first point for Dizzy here in game two, and conquering Targon's Peak will ready up a couple runes at the end of the turn. It looks like Kai'Sa's going to be
Ooh.
the play here on turn two.
Yeah, getting Kaisa out early is really nice. And I was questioning for a moment us taking Targon's Peak this early when it feels like we may not really need those 2 runes, but it's that Kaisa that obviously makes that decision, right? We spend all our runes and suddenly we weren't going to be able to do anything, but by taking Targon's Peak, we have those options for this upcoming turn when Sharp can try to take a battlefield.
We'll see if Andrew does indeed try to go into combat here. We are going to see the stacked deck early. And with those 2 runes, does represent Dizzy potentially having some interaction here if Andrew were to try and reach to the back line, to the base, and target Kaisa as we get a card off of this stacked deck. 4 more runes for Andrew to work with. It's going to be another stacked deck. We'll go
Ooh.
searching once again. So Andrew just trying to piece together some of this puzzle early.
Yeah, it seems like Andrew's having to dig this game for some of those pieces he really wants to find. Obviously, we could play Ezreal at any time because he's in our chosen spot. But when you play Ezreal, you really want to start with that seal so that you can get in a really early start. And as we mentioned many times so far, start decreasing some of these costs.
Yeah, having Ezreal champion, or excuse me, having Ezreal Prodigy in the champion zone is just so big. We are still going to play it. We don't have the seal, but we do have the gold gear token to pay for that power on Ezreal. We're going to ditch the rebuke to draw a couple cards, and we've got one of the pieces in play now. We just need to find those seals. We'll see if we can find the Vex as well here in the near future. But I'm sure we were able to find some things we really wanted off the stack decks. And now we're just going to have the called shot. So this really is a setup turn for
Ooh.
Andrew.
I see that we got that seal in the card that we just placed upside down. I did miss the second card because I was too excited, but Andrew is going to be very happy to get that seal, I'm sure. Though it does look like we are going to wait a turn. While it's maybe sometimes a little bit different for Ezreal, I think as a normal rule of thumb for these other decks, it's always nice to wait to use that, like play the seal till you're actually going to be able to use it to spin something because of that floating that we have in this game.
Absolutely. Back over to Dizzy. He holds at Targon's Peak up to 2 points. He's going to go to 3 points with Kaisa Survivor conquering Aspirant's Klein, drawing a card off of that conquer as well. Tide Turner coming back to the base, and we'll see if we develop any further.
Let's see what they're able to do. I mean, it is so nice just to draw off that Kaisa, but it does look like Falling Star is going to try to wipe the board for Andrew.
Wow.
Huge tempo.
Huge tempo swing indeed. And we saw this early in the last game as well. That falling star, Dizzy was able to take that early command of the board. Andrew's going to have some work to do once again as we see a stack deck on Dizzy's side also. But falling star just creates so much early tempo.
Yeah, it really does and can really help us come back from things. I mean, to be fair, I guess to some extent, Andrew hasn't started to take points yet, but he was building up that board, developing it just like he needed. And Dizzy sets him back again. We've used our chosen champion now. So if there's another Ezreal, we're going to need to find it. And then obviously also still have to find our Vex. Luckily, we know Seal is in our hand though.
Definitely some work to do. A little bit of an uphill climb for Andrew going into this next turn, up to 6 runes. So it's just going to be the Kaisa and Tide Turner continuing to be the 2 units in play for Dizzy. He's currently trying to hold on to the Aspirant's Climb. And importantly, Dizzy does have 2 runes open for some interaction. There's Vex as we use that seal that comes down to pay the power on Vex's cost. And Aspirant's Climb being held 4 points for Dizzy.
Yeah, that's going to be so nice continuing to get these points off of holding. And as long as Andrew's not set up, we're not going to have too much of a difficulty to do that. Vex does pose a little bit of a threat, meaning that, if it starts attacking, we have to worry about that math changing for different spells. But we're just going to continue to retreat out of Targon's Peak and then move back into it as we can so that we can get those 2 extra runes each turn of
The 2
each
extra
other
runes.
turn.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, the 2 extra runes, so important just because it gives you that flexibility where you can develop, right? You can develop a big unit on the board and still have the flexibility to interact on your opponent's turn with those 2 runes. So I do love that play as Dizzy in a real commanding position here, 5-0 the score with that conquer. And now the question for me is, do we further develop and try to set ourselves up for a big turn next turn? Looking through the discard pile.
Yeah, I think if we were gonna have this slow of a game of any of the 3 games, Andrew wanted it to be on the Aspirant's Climb just for the fact that we have to actually get to 9 points instead of 8, because otherwise next turn, we are in a dangerous position for sure, but hopefully for Andrew's side, he will be able to find something, but Ferris Forerunner does pose a bit of a threat. I feel like a lot of times when you want to, as a deck, remove things from the board, Ferris Forerunner is your greatest enemy because when you kill him, he just spawns 2 more.
Yeah, it's so good, right? The might is just replaced with 2 3 might mech tokens. So that was the play for Dizzy. Develop, get the 2 runes for interaction, thanks to the Conquer of Targon's Peak. 5-0 as we go over to Andrew. Andrew has a Vex, so we have a unit that can make a play if we need it to here.
Yeah, and I think Dizzy kind of respected that fact to some extent because he did retreat out of that Aspirant's Climb where in these prior turns we've seen him actually say, "Nah, I'm going to hold it. Maybe I'll defend it." But here Dizzy, he retreated back. Vex has a free battlefield if Andrew doesn't want to risk anything now. So maybe he won't go into Targon's Peak, but maybe he's ready to fight. We'll have to see.
Well, we do find another Ezreal prodigy, very important for Andrew as we discard the Stupefy to draw 2. Vex moving into Targon's Peak. Here comes Frigid Touch. Frigid Touch going to give Kaisa -2. Looks like we are not repeating here, just giving Kaisa -2.
Interesting. I mean, I wonder if there is some damage spell that Andrew will be able to play here. It does look like Bellows Breath is going to find its way, but it looks like it's on to Targon's Peak. If I saw the hand gesture correctly.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I didn't quite he did gesture that way, but we're kind of thinking it through here. We definitely have options. We know that Kaisa is at 2 might currently. Tide Turner as
Hmm.
well. So we got a 2 might at Targon's Peak, 2 might in the back line.
Yeah, I mean, Bella's Breath could definitely clear at least one of these. Targon's Peak is an option, though Vex does appear like it's going to be able to kill Tide Turner regardless. And knowing that Dizzy only has 2 runes up, he can't really play anything versus the Vex, who is making all of his normally 2 cost cards a 3. But it does look like Bella's Breath will end up killing the Kaisa.
Yeah, Kaisa dealt with Vex, able to conquer Targon's Peak, going and getting the first point for Andrew here in game 2. So 5-1, readying 2 more runes thanks to Targon's Peak. So that's 4 runes ready for interaction on Dizzy's turn.
Ooh.
Andrew will have some interaction.
Yeah, 4 is so scary, I feel like, as Dizzy trying to figure out what to do here. Obviously, he does have the option still to go into Aspirant's Climb versus Targon's, but he does need to find a way to get rid of Vex one way or another, because otherwise it's gonna continue to be an aspiring climb to the win.
That's absolutely right. And we saw that crazy combination with Vex and Ezra in play, the super cheap repeated Bellows Breath play. So we've seen that line. Now we're going to have Mind Splitter, excuse me, coming out. We're going to take a look at Andrew's hand here. So Dizzy going to try and search for one of the pieces to the puzzle. What do we find now? See if Andrew has any reactions.
Yeah, I think the one thing that a lot of people don't think about is you can still play reactions here. So if
Yeah.
there's something you want to play this turn or that you thought would be really important this turn, then you can go in and react, but you can't use any of the actions in your hand in response. So Dizzy, it does look like there's no cards played. Dizzy will be able to check out what's in Andrew's hand, hopefully discard something that he doesn't want to see come down. But the only problem is Andrew kind of has access to his discard pile. He doesn't have any fizzes in hand right now, but that kind of means he could draw into them, which is dangerous.
We have a lot of interaction in the forms of spells, right? We have a lot of interaction in Andrew's hand. We also have a really spicy unit here that Beast below. Love to see this. This is not one we've seen a lot of recently, but definitely a spicy include here. So the rebuke, one thing to note, is so good against the Ferris Forerunner. The Ferris Forerunner being bounced, it prevents that death knell ability. We are going to take out the Beast below, which was a great way to bounce the Ferris Forerunner as well. So a couple different ways that Andrew could do it. As the Beast below discarded here, we're going to pass back over to Andrew as he holds on to Targon's Peak. 5-2 now. Andrew clawing his way back into game two.
Yeah, I mean, getting rid of that down the beast below, for some reason I keep wanting to call it the down under. I don't know why. Uh is I think gonna be really nice for Dizzy. We did see this card in some of the below like the one Bologna list by Randy with 4
Okay.
Wise, 3 Wise, and I think he did bring it to Las Vegas as well. But his was in a Draven list versus an Ezreal, so interesting addition here on Andrew's part, putting it into his deck. So
Stupefy plus Frigid Touch. That Mind Splitter really taking a hit with the negative might here. And now it's Bellows Breath for Andrew. That is going to deal a couple more damage as we see the repeat on Bellows Breath. And Mind Splitter is dealt with. Dizzy back to just the Ferris Forerunner as Vex comes back to base.
yeah, that does not feel good. At least he did get rid. I mean, at least he still has his Bears Forerunner as well. But Dizzy committed power, right, to
Yeah.
creating that Mind Splitter, and he doesn't have the access to the like resource or the discounts as much as Andrew does. He's not playing any seals right now. There's not as much gold on his side. So he had to play a full cost for a mind splitter that did get to discard something, but it was also a large might unit on the board as well. That would have been really nice for Dizzy.
And the problem is Andrew still has Rebuke in hand. So if Ferris Forerunner goes and tries to get into one of these battlefields, that Rebuke becomes a very viable option for the Ferris Forerunner. Something to note that I don't think we've discussed a lot of here in this game, but Andrew multiple times, including last turn, has been able to use the activated ability on the Ezreal Legend, drawing that additional card. He's really got good value out of the Legend. Several cards this game, you're able to use it as long as you have chosen enemy units or spells or units or gears, I should say, twice in the same turn with spells or abilities. So Andrew just really feasting in cards here off of that legend ability.
Yeah, that is so nice getting to draw cards off of it. And really interesting use of the rebuke as well. I'm sure it is making Dizzy question what to do when he saw the rebuke in hand. So to play it is uh kind of interesting, right? To see that he says, here's at least one gone. And I think that is the second rebuke that we've seen. So there's only one more in Andrew's hand, but they're so strong versus Ferris Forerunner, right? Like normally we talk about like the damage where you kill the Ferris Forerunner and creates 2 more units, but if you bounce it to his hand, it doesn't do. I mean, Ferris Forerunner's ability doesn't do anything.
Yeah. It doesn't do anything. And then you have to pay so much to bring it out again. So it is intriguing for sure. We've got Ferris Forerunner moving into the Targon's Peak, conquering there. So it's 6-2 now in favor of Dizzy as we are going to bring that chosen champion out. Draven Vanquisher coming to the base for Dizzy.
Yes, interesting to see the Draven played so much later than last game, right? Like a lot of times you see Draven played turn 2, but here we are pretty far into the game. 5 points for Dizzy. Andrew's already set up and started to get points on his own side, and only now is Draven coming into play.
Definitely later. Dizzy still holding on to the advantage here. 6-2. And now Andrew Vex and Ezreal Prodigy, the great combination in the base and plenty of runes to work with. We'll see what Andrew has for us here. Again, keep in mind, we got to score 3 more points on Dizzy's side, and that certainly changes the math.
Yeah. Uh, I will say the one thing that it does allow by having to 9 right now is being on odds is not as bad if we can conquer both sides and hold it. That does potentially mean a win, but it
Oh, he
also
does have the
means,
rebuke.
ooh,
The rebuke Vex comes in, and the cheap rebuke is played with just that one ready rune, and the Ferris Foreigner, we talked about it, is right back in Dizzy's hand.
ouch. Yeah, I think Dizzy was really hoping that he didn't have the third rebuke, but he did. I mean, with some knowledge that you have uh, Ferris Foreigner and your opponent has rebuke, we may have wanted to try to play a hidden fight or flight. Because fight or flight is an action normally, but when you play it hidden, it can act as a reaction and respond to rebuke. But it seems like we're caught off guard, or we decided that it was good enough just to get the point with that Ferris Forerunner. But I mean, does get sent back to hand by the rebuke here.
An absolute big momentum swing for Andrew up to 3 points. Has some options in hand. Still has a few interaction spells. We've got, I believe he's holding on to that thousand tailed watcher now as well. If things get a little bit hairy on the board, we always can fall back on that if need be. And it's going to be a second copy of
Ooh.
Vex at Targon's Peak. So now not only do we have 10 might, but we have a massive, massive advantage in combat if one takes place.
For sure, those stacking abilities would be so disastrous for Dizzy to have to pay. And it looks like Andrew is full committing to holding Targon's Peak here. He's only at 3 points, but he says, I'm confident that you're not going to be able to take this from me.
The amount of energy and power that Dizzy would need to spend to take it, I think, would just be too much. But now, one thing on the bright side for Dizzy is he is still holding on to quite a bit of cards in hand as well. He has certainly been able to draw a decent amount of cards in this game. He's got Draven Vanquisher on the back line.
Yeah, at least he does have units still after the rebuke on the board as well. So we're not like completely wiped, and we do have the option to still move into Aspirant's Climb. But we know the moment we really go into these battlefields as well, we start kind of being vulnerable to some things like rebuke or other battlefield specific cards. But I mean, now with Bella's Breath, obviously, it's not like he only has to worry if it's on a battlefield. Maybe it's better to go into and take the point instead of losing your unit while it's still stuck at the base.
And Dizzy opting not to pay the power there, not giving +2 might to Draven Vanquisher. And Andrew really deciding on this one, but ultimately allowing that point to go through, bringing Dizzy up to 7 total points now, just 2 away from victory. But again, going to be a bit tougher now with that northern battlefield really having the lockdown, as we say, with these 2 Vex.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we see a lot of players like not try to hold unless we know we can do it. But I think with two Vexes, I mean, and especially in Ezreal, but two Vexes, 6 runes up. And I think Andrew can be pretty confident here having all those units in Targon's Peak. But we'll have to see if he plans to hold it multiple turns or if he's going to retreat back, open it up potentially to Dizzy, but also give him the ability to continue to reconquer Targon's Peak and get that and trigger Targon's ability as well.
We see the Tide Turner able to swap positions with Draven Vanquisher, so it will be Tide Turner left on the southern battlefield. Aspirant's Climb. Nox is hopeful joining the fray as well for Dizzy. For just 2, getting the Legion effect there, costing 2 less energy because he had played another card. And Andrew holding up to 4 at Targon's Peak. And we still have to keep in mind, Dizzy does have the point tempo here, and we do still have to answer that if we're Andrew, because at this point, Dizzy holding 2 turns, that's also enough. So Andrew will certainly be looking to do something about this Tide Turner on this turn, very likely.
Yeah, I definitely think he needs to do something in the long term. It does look like Wages of Pain is going to be what he thinks is his answer, and it does go through for him. So Tide Tuner does die, but we have 8 might in the battlefield, potentially 10 if you include the paying for an extra +2 on the Draven. But it does look like we're going to see that thousand-tailed Watcher come down, meaning both of these units are now 1 might each and kind of leaves, you know, a chance that we could see Bellows Breath as well. You do try to normally what do them in opposite order, but it is still something to look out for now.
That would be absolutely disgusting if Andrew had it. It doesn't appear that he does. The Thousand Tailed Watcher was accelerated, goes down to the southern battlefield, conquering the Aspirant's Climb. And Andrew up to 4 points. Only one ready rune for Andrew, too. That's definitely something to note here.
Yeah, it's that one rune, you still have to wonder like what it could mean. Obviously, going into Thousand Tailed Watcher, one rune could kind of be a stupefy, I guess. But on the other hand, it's almost like it doesn't matter if you decide to go into Targon's Peak, right? Because those discounts on top of discounts are going to make it so difficult for Dizzy to take both sides. Then maybe his only option now is to go for Aspirant's Climb.
I totally agree with you. I think that Aspirant's Climb really has to be the target here because it's a great point, right? I mean, Vex going into combat, even with the only one ready rune, we now have the options are unlimited, right? Because we get
Mhm.
those cost reductions. So I think going into Targon's Peak would be extremely, extremely difficult. We do see Darius Trefarian coming out. So this could be some extra might for Dizzy ready on this turn.
Yeah, if we play a second card, we could see this Darius ready to end up to 7 might. That would put us, I believe, to 15 on Dizzy's side. And it does look like that second card is going to come down. I have not seen which card it is just yet, but oh, it's the spinning axes. So it's not just 15, but it's 18 might now with spinning axes.
That might total jumped quite a bit there, +5 in total on Darius, 2 from his own ability as he readies, and 3 from that spinning axe. Darius quite the threat now, representing a total of 10 might by himself. And Dizzy is going to move into Targon's Peak with the Trefarian. And it looks like we are just going to see a trade here. It's going to be Darius taking down both copies of Vex. And if I'm Dizzy, I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, this is such a nice position here for Dizzy. And by moving one unit at a time up with the spinning axes, you get access to so much extra might that I mean, your opponent didn't really account for. Maybe one spinning axis is +3, but now when you kill
Oh,
my
it's
unit, I can
all
just reattach and
over.
reattach.
That is
To be
so.
fair, at 4 points, if Dizzy was, not if it wasn't a bluff, right? At least he'd be able to burn those cards out of Andrew's hand because while there are some options for hand disruption in this game, there's not too many. At some point, you have to make your opponent burn those cards, or they're just going to be there for when you try to take the battlefields for real.
And look at this final game. First game 3 on stream today. Super excited about that. It's Obelisk of Power for both players. So Andrew going first on 4 runes to start this game, channeling 2 extra runes at the start of the beginning phase. Going to play Card Shark and get a total of 2 Gold Gear tokens because Dizzy decides to play one as well. And then stack deck on top of all that. So solid start for Andrew. As we go back over to Dizzy, and he'll be working with 5 runes.
I always feel like the double obelisk starts are so funny because, sometimes with obelisk, you get to see the cool, like, sneaky deckhands on like turn 1 or something like that. But no, you don't have 3 runes to start with going turn 1. You have 4 and you have 5 on your turn 2. So we're actually seeing an accelerated Kaisa immediately up into the northern obelisk, taking a point, getting a card draw, and just getting, set up at a stage that he's hoping that Andrew doesn't have the runes to remove the Kaisa and build his own board.
I love what Dizzy did there. Actually decide to create that gold gear token exhausted. He had denied that possibility the first couple games, said, no, I'll pass, but this time made it. And it was really important because he didn't have to deramp himself with that accelerate on Kaisa. So now we have Andrew playing the frigid touch, -2 might for Kaisa as we move in with the card sharp conquering, evening things up at one apiece and Ezreal Prodigy coming out. And now we see the called shot following the seal. So here comes the draw engine.
Yeah, what a nice turn here for Andrew as well. Seal into Ezreal into called shot. That's what you want to find the pieces you need. And we're going to get to draw 2 cards for the price of 1 power. So really, really nice for Andrew. Hopefully he finds those exact pieces and he'll get to select, you know, out the perfect hand while knowing what is going to be at the bottom of his deck. And in this game, you can take notes. So you can even, if you can't memorize what's there, take notes on what you might be drawing in the future.
That's right. Great use for both players of the gold gear tokens that were created from that card sharp, keeping themselves from deramping. And look at this. Here comes Mind Splitter for Dizzy. Taking a look at Andrew's hand, we see Vex, Stupefy, Rasa, and Bellows Breath. What are
I
your
have
thoughts here?
Yeah, I have to wonder what Dizzy is going to discard because obviously there's only 5 cards in Andrew's discard pile right now. Ross is not discounted as much as it will. I did think it was going to be Vex just because we don't want him to start developing Vex, but now we know that Bellows Breath and a Stupefy even for a combo is a potential threat. Luckily, Mind Splitter a little bit too big for it to matter just yet.
Dizzy trying to take away the Vex there. And then we see another called shot that was off the top for Andrew. So he's able to now go digging anyways, trying to find those pieces. You could see the reaction from Dizzy. Couldn't believe it. You top decked the called shot and now very likely to find what he wanted.
Yeah, this is gonna be so nice, and we're gonna get a draw off the Stupefy as well. So we got to pick 2 out of 4 and draw a card.
We're
So many
digging.
pieces we've seen. Yeah, we're digging
We are
exactly.
digging hardcore. Back-to-back stupefies, which turned on the Ezreal legend as well. Andrew's really searching here, Ursi.
Wonder what he's looking for. Is he looking for a unit to play? Is he looking Oh, and it's a Rocket Barrage into Bellows Breath. And Rocket
Wow.
Barrage is such an interesting card to me because it can deal damage, right? But it also in other matchups can also destroy gears. So really nice card to have. Really good, what's the word? Flexibility for the
Yeah.
card, but ends up killing that Mind Splitter.
Well, Andrew able to find an answer to the big mind splitter with the help of Rocket Barrage, dealing the unit or dealing the damage to the unit in the base. And Dizzy now back to no units in play, but is yet to bring out the Draven Vanquisher. So we do have that chosen champion still lingering as it remains tied up at 1-1. What a turn there for Andrew. Really dug, found the answer to clean up the board. Now, of course, he's going to be looking for the Vexes. We'll see if he finds one again in the near future. It's a sneaky deckhand, quite the sneaky play from Dizzy, going up to the Northern Obelisk of Power, getting his second point of game number 3, the deciding game 3 here in round 4.
Yeah, really nice to that sneaky deck hands off. I mean, it is a little aggressive, right? Because we are putting that sneaky deck hands at a risk, but he does have 4 more runes open. That could be the Draven. We could develop more cards in our base, and we are slowly getting points because it seems like this game, Andrew. I mean, we saw how much he dug for it last turn, is really trying to keep units off the board and keep Dizzy where he doesn't even have that point lead to begin with. Let's see here.
Another called shot.
Ooh.
Andrew's still able to just dig and dig. Looks like I saw a rebuke there on top. Couldn't quite catch a glimpse of the other card. Second time around, a thousand-tailed watcher. Does he find the Vex? Do we get the Vexes back in play to try to make combat super, super advantageous for Andrew?
Yeah, and to note, we are officially over 10 cards in discard pile, so Andrew will be able to start playing those Rasas for completely free. Ezreal is going to make its way into that Northern Obelisk of Power versus the sneaky deckhands, but if he's able to take either of these battlefields, then Rasa can come down to really solidify a hold and keep, just to keep that battlefield and keep Dizzy out of it.
We do see the fight or flight for Dizzy pushing back the Prodigy to Andrew's base. So Sneaky Deckhand, for the time being, will successfully retain that Northern Obelisk of Power. And that is going to be a card draw for Dizzy off the Draven Legend ability, winning the combat as Ezreal's pushback.
Yeah, it's so nice because when you win a combat, you're already still maintaining that spot on the battlefield. But now, because of that Draven leader ability, drawing a card just, it's the frosting on top of the cake.
It
That's
really
not
is.
the saying. What is the saying? I don't know.
the the cherry on top, I'm not.
Maybe it's the cherry on top is what I'm thinking of, but I'm so bad with sayings for some reason. And I still try to use them.
Fizz Trickster able to go into the toolbox that is Andrew's trash, playing the Wages of Pain and then recycling it. That takes the Sneaky Deckhand off the battlefield. And we continue to develop further another copy of Ezreal Prodigy, drawing more cards and a card sharp to get some more gold gear tokens going. Andrew now has quite the back line with two Ezreals in play. So if Vex can come out, things get pretty cheap.
Yeah, I feel like every single piece of the puzzle is kind of appearing right into Andrew's base here. Vex is the only thing missing. We even have two Ezreals down, which does mean even if one dies, the other keeps discounting. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing Andrew move more and more into these battlefields and start saying, Dizzy, you don't get them. They're mine now.
That's right. That is absolutely right. Dizzy has to work with a clean board here. How do we redevelop? It is going to be another copy of Sneaky Deckhand being played directly onto that Northern Obelisk of Power. Again, Sneaky Deckhand, you can play it to an open battlefield. So Dizzy conquering up to 3 points. It's 3-1 in favor of Dizzy.
Yeah, again with the sneaky deckhands taking a battlefield without even having something in the base the turn before. It is nice to keep that point lead, but it also means, right, that a lot of times we're not able to get a second unit down. This turn, though, that's not the case for Dizzy. Ferris Forerunner does find himself into that onto the board, which going to be nice when Andrew keeps removing things. And luckily, as long as Ferris Forerunner stays in the base, it can't get hit by that rebuke.
Now, Andrew lining up a move into the obelisk of power at the southern hemisphere here. We're going to conquer it. And we have conquered the northern obelisk of power as well. And the beast below, we saw it be discarded in the first game, able to bounce back the Fizz to Andrew's hand, the Ferris Forerunner back to Dizzy's hand. And you want to talk about tempo, it is completely in Andrew's favor now.
Oof. Yeah, so many cards coming down completely for free. I mean, we see Rasa, you mentioned the beast below. There's so many things here that are going to make it so difficult for Dizzy to come back. And he
Just
doesn't even have the units yet to do it.
That's right. Just love that combination. If you get that Fizz in play, because Beast Below, it does force you to return another friendly unit, but you're totally okay returning that Fizz and getting that ability off yet again. As we see Dizzy now going digging with the stacked deck, 3-3. But Andrew holding on to both of these battlefields with some pretty big numbers.
Yeah, I can't even. I mean, I'm trying to figure out the might is. I'm not really sure, but both of these are going to be difficult for Dizzy to deal with. It looks like our first thing is going to be, as you said, that stack deck. He's going to try to dig to find something, anything that can move them out of the battlefields.
We do see Falling Star, Rebuke, and can't quite tell what the middle card is there. Might be the Spinning Axe.
Maybe possession.
Is it Possession?
I think.
Okay.
Maybe? I'm just seeing, like, the swirlies on the
Yeah,
side, it makes me think of the possession. It's a very pretty card.
it is, absolutely. But interesting choice here. What do we need? Of course, if it is the axe, you have all kinds of interaction, but it looks like
Is it Kaisa?
maybe it was. Yeah, maybe it was Kaisa. It wasn't either of the cards we were
Yeah.
originally thinking. And the Ferris Forerunner is just going to join Dizzy's base once again. Hopefully, this time Dizzy will be able to stick that unit in play. The bounce effect so crucial against the Ferris Forerunner. We are finally seeing the chosen champion come out, Draven Vanquisher. Pretty late to the party here in this deciding game three as Andrew holds both battlefields up to 5 points.
And it does look like we're gonna be going to time here. So in Riftbound, there's the time roll, I believe, is now 3 turns. It was 5 turns. I think it's still 3 turns. And then you have to be winning by 2 points or actually win the game to win, just for those uh who don't know about the time rolls in Riftbound. So whoever's turn it is when the game ends, I believe is turn 0,
Okay,
I
so
think. But
yes, I think you're absolutely right. So time would be called on Andrew's turn. So he would be turn 0 back over to Dizzy for 1, Andrew on 2, Dizzy on 3, and then that is when the game would conclude.
let's see. I mean, we have a number of different options here in Andrew's hand. Obviously, we do have that Fizz that we bounced earlier that could play really any of these spells from his discard pile to help him figure out an answer versus Dizzy. But honestly, Andrew is in such a lead that as long as he can maintain the lead, he would probably get actually to 8 points by his second turn. But he could also, you know, keep I mean, he's already at 2 points ahead, so he would be able to get that win as well.
Yeah, if he can hold yet again, he is in a very, very good spot. Has, I believe, is it 11 runes? I think he has 11 total runes, only one left in the rune deck. The Fizz definitely opens up tons of options. We know there's several spells in the trash that can even potentially go after that back row for Dizzy. We're going to see the Temporal Portal come out again. He's going to use it right away, paying the power cost with the seal. So we're going to get repeat here on this
Ooh.
next spell. Here comes Fizz, and it's going to be Stupefy being repeated. It looks like repeated onto the Draven, and we are drawing several cards there. Big play for Andrew.
Yeah, it is so nice for Andrew. I mean, A, to get to draw extra cards, and B, Draven is such a small unit now, depending on what type of removal he has to deal with it. I can't do math, I realized after I said what I said earlier, but 7 points next turn is still really nice of a lead here. Let's
It really is.
see.
So 3 cards drawn there, 2 off of Stupefy because it was repeated, and then 1 off of the Ezreal Legend ability because we chose Draven twice with the Stupefy. So getting 3 total cards, and now we're lining up the Bellows Breath. That's going to take out the Draven Vanquisher, leaving only the Ferris Forerunner, and 6 possible might for Dizzy is cleared there as Andrew is just going to move all the units back to base as we play last rites, really setting up for a big turn next turn, which would be Andrew's last turn of the game.
Yeah, and I mean, Andrew pulling all those units back does mean Dizzy could potentially take points, but the thing is, all of those units basically are safe to some extent. Obviously, there are a couple spells like Falling Star that can hit some of these units where Andrew has them, but in whole, it's not like we have to worry about multiple units spinning axes, people coming in and removing them. So next turn, Andrew can move in, do a big push, and with that last rights, like you mentioned, even bring units back from the discard pile, which will help him add more might in these battlefields to hold it versus Dizzy in his final turn and keep that lead of points to win the match.
Now we do see the Falling Star coming out for Dizzy. That's going to clean up the Ezreals there. And Ferris Forerunner moving into the northern battlefield, scoring the 4th point. But it is very important to get the Ezreals off the board. That certainly will interfere with Andrew's game plan. And just doing the math here, if Dizzy is able to, let's say, play an accelerated unit or get a unit that would ready, he could get to 5 points, which would be 5-5. And then on Andrew's turn, he's going to be forced to conquer both of those battlefields to have a chance to win. Because again, like you said, you have to be up by 2 points at the minimum.
Yeah, I mean, and Dizzy's gonna try to close in that. Obviously, he did get to 4-1 separate here, but does he have any units that he can accelerate, get into the other obelisk of power? He's already used 2 sneaky deckhands, which may be one option. Obviously, we know he runs Kaisa, but one's in the discard. The other, I believe, is at the bottom of his deck. And I mean, he's gonna have to figure out something.
We do see an overzealous fan here for Dizzy, but unfortunately, that is not going to help his cause in scoring that other point at the southern obelisk of power. Dizzy has his work cut out for him here. Looks like he's still holding on to 4 cards in hand. We're going to hide a card at the obelisk of power with Ferris Forerunner. We go back over to Andrew, and here is the big turn that Andrew needs. He's up by 1 point. We have to be up by at least 2. He can get that by just conquering the southern battlefield, but you know very well that Andrew would love to take both of these if able and give himself that cushion.
Yeah, it's gonna be really nice to try to, I mean, extend that lead even further, just so we feel more confident going into Dizzy's final turn of the entire match.
Going to be tight. That is for sure. If Andrew could conquer both, he would go up to 7, which means that Dizzy would be forced to at least conquer 1, or excuse me, at least conquer 2, because you can't be down by 2. So 7 for a 3 point cushion would be very nice for Andrew because he could lose 1 battlefield and still take the victory. He has all the runes to work with. We have a total of 6 plus, I believe, 14, 20 might in the back line, plus that last right switch can add a couple extra.
Yeah, there's just so much might that Andrew has built up here. And he just has so many more units as well than Dizzy has. Dizzy didn't even, I mean, he chose to keep that 1 unit overzealous span in the base. So you can see he's hoping for some, like, I mean, for that next turn. But by having it in base, we also have to worry, right, that we just don't have enough might in that northern obelisk of power. I do think the hidden card may be fight or flight, A, to protect Ferris Forerunner from a rebuke, but also to potentially push some of these units back from Andrew. Beast Below, I think I said it correctly this time,
Yep.
is going to be coming in obelisk at the bottom, but there's still so much might that can move up into that Ferris Forerunner at that northern battlefield.
And we are going to see Thousand Tailed Watcher reinforcing the southern obelisk of power. That will give the Ferris Forerunner and the Sneaky Deckhand -3 might to a minimum of 1. As now we
Mhm.
are going to equip the last rights onto the Trickster himself, recycling 2 cards from the trash. But like Stupefy was one of those cards, couldn't quite catch the other one. But now we move into the northern battlefield with a total of 5 plus 6, 11 might to Dizzy's currently only having 3 might.
Yeah, that is, I mean, I think Andrew is gonna win the showdown, but it's actually gonna be Tide Turner. Wow. And that's gonna bring Overzealous Fan up, able to act as a fight or flight versus Andrew's cards. So this Overzealous Fan can die to be able to push one of those units back. But with Ferris Forerunner only a 3, I don't think it's gonna be enough.
Now the overzealous fan is killed to push back one of the units. And now Andrew, that does resolve the Fizz Trickster pushback. So now we have 6-3 the might total at the northern battlefield. So Andrew's still winning the combat here.
Yeah, Andrew is in such a nice position. At least, though, if Dizzy does lose the Ferris Forerunner, we will see those two baby mechs in base. But it looks like we're going to be having, I think it was that spinning axe. Sadly, despite the spinning axe coming down, Stupefy is going to finish it off. And that means even though Dizzy committed that extra energy, those extra runes to attack spinning axe, it doesn't matter. Ferris Forerunner is dead. And since he can't reattach the spinning axe this turn, he'll lose it as well. But actually, it looks like we're gonna quickly maybe choose something else to do.
Yeah, it looks like he decided against letting that stupefy resolve, playing the hard bargain. So then the rebuke comes down to try and bounce the Ferris Forerunner. There's another copy of hard bargain, but it looks like Andrew had the energy to spend to counter the hard bargain, and that is going to do it. The handshake and Andrew Duval taking down our bounty player Dizzy. What a match that was.
What a great job by both those players. I think Dizzy did such a great job